All right, welcome to episode 11 of Video Games Are Hard. I am Average Trey. Wait.
I'm Chillindude.
I'm Sid still, I guess. I have nobody else to pick.
And I'm glad you guys got me on here. It's an honor, really.
Wow.
Yeah,
wow, it's so nice to have you, Chillindude.
It's great that you guys finally responded to your DMs and, were able to make time for this because we've been trying for a long time.
After many weeks, I was finally able to get on here. I can't believe it.
Yeah, Chillin's been clamoring to come on like week after week, and we were just like, no, we want Popo and Reed. We got the Rixer. We're just holding you back at an arm's reach.
Yeah, actually, on a serious note, we got backups on backups, so we made it work.
Sweet.
The truest thing, we don't have backups.
We're good at last second getting people, though. We realized.
Yes, we definitely do. We definitely are. But Chillindude, nice. After 3 weeks of attempts, is finally on the show. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, you were on last season, the first season of the podcast when Roy was all the rage.
Oh yeah, I forgot that we had like an extensive Roy discussion.
Yeah, I remember the thumbnail had Roy on it. I thought I remember that.
I remember in the post podcast discussion about the thumbnail, because I think you were involved in we were talking about the thumbnail for the YouTube video in our group, and Trey had made this abomination of a Chillindude that was your face was cropped onto Roy's.
That's literally all it was, yeah.
The most haphazard way, and he linked it to me, and I was just like, you got to show Chillin this garbage trash. and Chillin looked at it and was just like, lol. And I was like, yeah, that's pretty much the interaction that I was expecting.
And then I was like, maybe I shouldn't use that as a thumbnail. I'm just going to use Roy, and I'm going to respect Roy and do that. So yeah.
So we're here to chill.
Yeah, we're here down to chill. That's part of my name.
We're here to talk about gaming news. The first time you were here, we went through the whole spiel. We got your gaming resume. Azin or Isaiah gave you a job, and now you're here again.
Yeah.
And so the current gaming news, we need to talk about it right away.
So okay, Chillin, dude. Yeah, I got this. Don't worry.
Okay.
So Chillin, you've been on Team Liquid for quite some time now, right?
Yeah, 6 years.
Oh, dang, it's been that long.
Holy
yeah,
shit.
It's actually crazy.
I know it was Team Curse before that, right?
Yeah, so it was Team Curse that I joined in 2014, and I was only on Curse for 6 months before they merged with Liquid, and that was the beginning of 2015. This was actually, someone asked me this at my birthday party last week, which is why it's fresh on my brain. I was like, yeah, I guess I have been on Liquid for 6.5 years. Kind of ridiculous.
Damn. Well, just in case you're considering retiring from that team, it's been a long time, maybe time to mix it up a little bit. Have you considered joining Moist eSports like Moki has?
I mean, going from Liquid to Moist is I don't know, it's
natural.
A little bit of a downgrade, right? It's not as much Liquid. It's just a slight amount.
Still Liquid in some way, you're right. I mean, Moist, I don't know. So, Critical... Mm-hmm. So has he done this for Ultimate before? What's going on here with this exactly?
So I don't really know what spurred it, but yeah, he suddenly got into esports with Ultimate Summit coming up, and he sponsored Aaron, who's kind of an up and coming Ultimate player. He wasn't a necessarily already established top player, but he was definitely good and had mostly gotten results in the past couple years, I think, mainly during quarantine and stuff. And I think it was a good play by Critical to get in during Summit voting, because Summit voting always is super high profile and you're going to get a lot of publicity regardless.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good play by him. And then Aaron ended up getting into Summit. I always wonder if Aaron hadn't gotten in, that would have been really bad for for Critical and for Moist Esports, but he didn't end up getting in, and then now he also picked up Moki today. I just saw on Twitter.
And the turnaround time, literally, Moki asked him, he added him yesterday, saying yo, Charlie, you want to hit me up or whatever? Then the very next day, A is on Team Moist.
Yeah.
I love the turnaround. It's so good.
That was crazy fast.
I linked the tweet to Trey, and I was just like, it was just the Moki tweet adding critical, and it had 3,000 likes or so when I linked it. And I was like, lol, this is the funniest shit. And then the day later, I linked it to Trey being like, my caption underneath was just PFFFFFF. And it was just.
I was thinking, there's no way Charlie's going to care about Melee. It's not quite as big as Ultimate, right? Or is it as big? What would you say?
I would say that at the moment, it's kind of equal because I think Ultimate really suffered from quarantine because the online is so bad. And so they didn't have nearly as much of like legitimate competition going on as Melee with rollback.
Isn't that so sad how even though the game that natively has online, like it should be unaffected, but because the online is so trash, it like actually makes it worse.
It is extremely sad and kind of goes to show how little Nintendo cares about like the competitive scene in general, because that legitimately the Ultimate scene was like neutered for like a year and a half, and now they're starting to get back up. And I'm actually really happy for them that Ultimate Summit went so well, because I feel like that scene like needed it.
For sure.
Yeah. I didn't watch much of Ultimate Summit. I saw the Charlie or the Moist Critical tweet and stuff, and I saw a little bit of like the Void shit at the end. Everybody hyping everybody up. I would have said that Melee for quarantine was bigger than Ultimate.
Yeah, like during quarantine, I think without a doubt, because again, it was more legit competition, and you could kind of tell that this is closer to what IRL tournaments would look like results wise and stuff, in terms of the gameplay. Whereas there were still a lot of Ultimate online tournaments, but you had to kind of take everything with a grain of salt when it came to Ultimate during quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
It boiled down to Sonic.
Basically, yeah.
I saw way too many.
Sonic was broken, right?
Yeah. The few Ultimate tournaments that I've seen, like the top or like semifinals or finals, it's always I've seen like too many Sonic mirror matches, way too many. And but like that's 3. Like too many for me is 3, and I think I saw more than that. And I was just like, I don't know what's going on. I can't. They're just pressing B.
I remember during like the brief period where I played Ultimate for about a month before I got bored of it. I found a lot of success with playing as Sonic, probably for that reason of just like running around a lot. But yeah,
he lends himself well to online, because you can't react online, and then you also just especially can't react to Sonic.
Yeah,
so
we played a little bit, Sid. I remember.
Yeah, I think I was Luigi. I played a lot. I didn't know the Infinites.
I like Pac-Man, Sonic, and maybe someone else. I can't remember.
Pac-Man is actually really fun.
Pac-Man's dope. I mean, I pick him because I already love Pac-Man like as a character, but his moveset's pretty interesting to work with.
Yeah, okay. I love using side B in creative ways.
Oh, for sure.
That's like my whole thing with Pac-Man.
So when we were initially planning to have you on, right? Smash Summit had just happened.
Melee Summit.
Right. And like all that stuff happened. Maybe we were going to have you on 2 weeks after or so. But there's a lot of like Melee Summit talk to like half cover, possibly with you. Like you're definitely the most credible Melee persona that we've had on since Summit. Even you're way up there, But the HBox stuff. Where he comes back from online, and online everybody's counting him out, and he comes to Summit and gets second or third. He got third. My bad.
Right.
After beating pretty much everybody every Fox that everybody basically had him counted out towards.
Right.
Because of the online era.
Yeah.
And but now we're back to like online and stuff, and I'm seeing like tournament results where S2J's winning over him, and he's taking like third.
Yeah.
What's going on? I want to know what's going on.
That's a very good question. So there's several potential explanations, and I think So one thing that came out shortly after Summit was like the next time HBox competed in an online tournament, apparently he's been using wireless headphones this entire time. Like the entire time he was competing during quarantine, he was using wireless headphones, and those have audio delay.
Yep.
So he was actually getting the wrong audio feedback, like, you know, delayed audio feedback the entire time.
Huh. So wait, are you saying that like Melee players and Smash players use audio cues as much as visual?
I wouldn't say necessarily as much, but it's definitely a huge factor, and it's one that I think that people don't really consider. Like it's very much subconscious, the amount of audio cues that like actually affect your gameplay. I think they're there,
Right.
but you don't really notice them until, like, for example, sometimes when I'm using, because I also did the same thing. I just used a wireless headset, and then that whole HBox fiasco made me realize that I should probably start using like a wired headset for Melee Online specifically.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just, if my headset wasn't charged or whatever, my wireless headset, I would just leave it there and try to play Melee without the audio cues, and it feels a lot different. It's hard to kind of put the finger on specifically what is different about it, but I think it's, again, just there's a lot of like subconscious audio reactions that are going on that you don't necessarily really think about.
There's some people who run Mario Sunshine who don't use the audio at all. But that being said, speedrunning a single player game is not the same as a person versus person interaction.
No.
Right.
Like having an audio cue for when you actually have to react to what your opponent's doing could make a world of difference versus just doing a speed run. But that being said, I have to use audio when I speed run because I'm so used to it now. I think that when you're speed running, it's whatever you're used to in terms of audio, whether you have it or not. But in person versus person, you definitely want to have the audio because it's been proven that audio reaction time is objectively faster than visual reaction time,
Right.
which can make all the difference. So
Yeah.
I
That's
thought
a huge
I
deal.
thought when you were talking about HBox, when you were saying that he was using wireless, for a second I was thinking Wavebird. But I was just like, he's using wireless. I'm like, what next word could possibly come out of your mouth?
I don't think a serious Smash player's used a Wavebird since 2005.
For like,
Yeah.
for like a second, for like half a second, I was just like, what could he possibly say next?
Good Lord. I haven't seen a Wavebird in person in like literally like almost 20 years, I think. Like it's been a long time.
Dude,
but
my
used to be a
cousin
thing.
had one when I was a kid, and I thought it was the coolest thing of all time.
Oh yeah.
It's a
at
cool
the time
concept.
It was super sick.
Yeah.
Wavebird plus LCD TV. Oh god.
I had a moment with because Azim was clearly like the best in our like little group of friends when we first started playing Melee, and just to like prank our friend, I sat like behind the couch where Azim was playing our friend in Melee, and I pretended like actually Azim sat behind the couch. I pretended like I was playing, and we both were on a Wavebird, but I was on the wrong channel. So Azim was actually the one controlling my character, and it was Ganondorf, which I had no semblance of a Ganon. Like I was just purely messing with this guy. But it's really funny because he did significantly better against Azim's Ganon because he thought it was me. Like he was actually keeping up. The prank didn't work very well. The prank was supposed to be like, oh, you're losing to my Ganon, you suck, dude. And then we were going to reveal, oh, it's actually Azim playing. But the mental difference of like, he thought it was my Ganon, and therefore he went like even as opposed to getting like 3 stock like he normally did.
That is an interesting insight into people playing different depending on who they play. Do you feel like do you feel like top players have an advantage inherently just from someone playing and they're going to get more nervous because it's like, oh, I'm playing a top player. Oh god.
Yeah, I think it goes both ways though, to an extent, because the top player is also, you have an added kind of pressure of anytime you lose to someone you're not supposed to, then you know that sucks. So I feel like it kind of balances out.
You're right. Yeah.
But it definitely goes both ways.
Well, that's the whole thing about online, where it's just everybody's. When IBDW and Moki and everybody started beating HBox consistently online, everybody was just kind of sitting there, just like they're not sitting beside HBox. When HBox beat, what was his name? What's the Green Marth from Smash Summit? from California.
Oh, I love that guy. What's his name?
Kadoran?
What's his name?
Kadoran. Yes.
When he beat Kadoran in like game 2, Kadoran after the set came down to the mic. It's like, yeah, the first 2 stocks of the next game I lost because of the pop off. like he was so inside his own head into the next game because of HBox's pop off after game 2. He was just like, and he was down 2 stocks and made it close.
Does HBox just have so much of a presence that he just is so much better in LAN because of it?
I think
Chillin can cover that question.
It's definitely part of his presence, but it's also that people like HBox in particular really feeds off of IRL energy, and it's not necessarily crowd energy because obviously at Summit they're in like their own separate room. I feel like he for some reason approaches the game differently when he's playing IRL versus online. And to go back to what I was saying before, he did, he started using a wired headset, and it's not like his online results have gotten significantly better. They're about the same. Yeah. But I think for all of us, we kind of had like a moment during Melee Summit where we were like, damn, HBox really is still good. And the entire past year because for all we assumed was, okay, he's playing too much Ultimate. He has not focused enough on Melee. He's out of practice. And maybe people are figuring out the Puff matchup. Maybe he's actually gotten worse. And then he kind of just ruined all of that talk with his Summit performance, and it put a little bit of a damper on online results as a whole, I think, because it was legitimately just a slap in the face to the entire past year of online results. And all of us had been saying, okay, well, HBox isn't practicing enough. People are better against Puff. Maybe he's just, not the player he used to be. And then he kind of shut all that up. And then at the same time, it also is like, well, what about all the people who have been doing really well during the online era? Like, how legitimate is that?
Oh, see, that's the poison that it is. Yeah, that's the poison that comes out of it. We're just like, oh, we were doubting HBox and now he's good, and then it's just like, oh, but then do we take all the benefits and then throw them in the trash?
Right. I don't think we should, because I think HBox is an anomaly when it comes to this specifically. Where
I think so too.
He just happens to perform at a completely different level IRL, and there's numerous factors that go into that. So it's hard to say like what specifically makes him better IRL versus online, but I think to throw out the rest of the results, because aside from HBox, they're pretty consistent in terms of, when people came back to IRL events recently, they're generally doing the same that they did online for the most part.
Yeah, and even the newer players that got good during the COVID era, or I guess we're still in the COVID era, but the online era, like Ben, the Sheik, he's doing really well. He came out of nowhere, basically, and now he's doing really well.
Yeah.
But the thing is that Moki went close with HBox, and I don't think Moki had beaten HBox in the before the online era, but it wasn't consistent in any I guess moist Moki hadn't done that well, but it wasn't consistent, but in the Summit studio he went game 5 and it was close. It looked like a classic IBDW set.
Right.
And all I know is that watching HBox through that Summit, I was sitting there going I was just praying that he didn't win. Because of exactly what you're talking about, where it's just I don't want to look at the online era and be like, oh, I paid attention for nothing. Or not even paid attention, but just got all hyped over it.
Yeah, but nothing. I think Chillindude's right in that HBox is really the only case where that seems to apply. Everyone else seems to do the same, whether it's online or IRL.
Yeah, I think that's definitely true. But I had that exact same moment, Sid, during Summit where I was like, wait, did this last year really mean nothing? Is this actually how this is going to go?
But I can imagine you guys in the community, that's way more of an impact for you. I'm sitting here as just a purely a fan, an observer, being like, oh man, that sucks that it just goes back to normal. But you guys are involved,
right?
And like armchair analyses, being like, oh yeah, HBox doesn't cut it. Moki wins this, and then he wins, and it's just like, fuck.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
I don't know. It was super weird to see, but I think collectively as a community, we kind of acknowledge that HBox is just a completely different case when it comes to online versus offline, because in general, it's a pretty good indication, at least. It's definitely not the same as IRL, but
No.
with rollback, it's like close enough, especially if the connection is good. The connection's a whole different thing, because there's often like East Coast versus West Coast matches when online tournaments happen, and you always have to kind of wonder what the connection feels like to both of the players there.
Yeah.
But HBox is just a whole different story. He's just not the same person competing in person as he is online. It's kind of nuts.
I guess
it's fun.
There's a lot of truth to that Imp Lemon video. There'll never be another player like HBox.
No.
Yeah, actually. He's definitely very unique.
You mentioned, while we're still on the Melee train, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I like keeping the Melee train rolling. There was a tournament kind of recently. You were talking about connection. Do you know the One Man Army, or is it One Man? What's his name? Army, just Army.
Yeah,
One Man Army is this Call of Duty?
One Man Army. I was referencing an old like Bachelorette joke I had with my sister. Like I don't know why. Don't worry about it. But
so One Man Army.
One Man Army. Army. Did you hear about his like internet connection at a somewhat recent online tournament?
Oh yeah, I did hear about that. Yeah, he got DQ'd because he hadn't lost yet, I think, but he got DQ'd out of the bracket because literally everyone that he played apparently complained about his connection.
Yeah, I got it through KO. I got all this info through KO.
Oh, I never heard about this.
Because Army played Ginger, and Ginger was complaining about the internet and lost. I don't remember what the score exactly was. Maybe it was like 3-0 or 3-1, but he lost, and he was just like, well, that connection sucked. I guess I'm playing losers. And then he went up against, I can't remember who he went up against next, but there was another connection issue, and Army was just like, no, it's not me. Like, even though it was consistent, it's like, no, bro, it's not me. It can't be me. And then Toussaint was the only person that like brought it up and was like, yo, this is bullshit. and Army was like, this is playable. And Toussaint was just like, this is not playable. We cannot do this. It was like 30 FPS or something.
Oh, no.
Good Lord.
And Army was just like playable. And Toussaint was the only person that put a full stop to it. And the TOs realized what had gone wrong. But they couldn't like go back in the bracket and be like, oh yeah, Ginger won or anything like that. But it was
right. Yeah, they had to DQ him like where he was in the bracket. But yeah, I mean that's just one of those things with online events that
yeah, it's just gonna happen.
There's no way to really get around that.
Yeah. All I know is that, to like wrap up the HBox thing, is that I would much prefer to play online HBox.
Oh yeah,
than in-person HBox. I don't know who else. Like, I'd probably love to sit beside Amsa, or then play him online.
Right.
I probably wouldn't want to sit beside Mango. Like, honestly, like I don't know. Like, obviously, I'd lose to every one of these players, but if you would like make a tier list of like who would you not want to sit beside in a Melee match, HBox would be top.
Oh yeah,
and then it would be like, who's the guy that raged at Chillindude all the time?
I feel like there's multiple of those.
Oh yeah,
I can
everybody.
I can picture him, but I forget who it is.
I can't remember. I just remember Chillindude holding up the salty sign, but. Like in Rocket League, to bring it to Rocket League for a sec, I turn off chat. Like, I can't have anybody say anything.
It's toxic.
That I don't know, where it's just like, oh, nice shot if I like miss an obviously open goal, or
well,
like
but then
nice
you said
save.
like when you have it off, you have that thought of, oh, I imagine they're saying the worst stuff possible right now.
Yeah, well,
that's true.
It's better to imagine it than to know.
Right.
Yeah, that's true. There's some players I play in tournament, and I just get really annoyed when they like say something that like, no offense to him, but Esam is a good example. Esam, I played him in PM like back in the day several times when we were both like top PM players, and he would just like make like I'm sure he's just actually just making casual comments, but I'm like trying my best to win, and he's just like laughs about something, and I'm like, dude, shut up. This is serious.
Dang.
This is serious. Respect my hustle, man.
Dude, there is a professionalism to it. There is a professionalism to playing in tournament in person, and some people don't do it, and it just disrupts the whole like system.
Yeah.
Where like if you watch like Pew Pew U or Mango or SFAT, they're all just super professional, and they just sit there, and like every now and then they'll like when their opponent like SDs, they'll shake their head or something. But that's like the most you'll get out of them.
Right.
And maybe after a game it's like a slight pop off, but like when HBox breaks the game and just stands up and pops off after game 2, it's just like, I can't, like, even me as a viewer, I'm sitting there going like, I wouldn't be able to play. Like, what's going on now? What's this?
Oh, man.
And also, when you're playing against HBox sitting next to you, there's always that fear that someone's going to throw a crab at him and it might hit you. I don't want that.
you need to have your crab defenses up when you're playing HBox, just in case.
And also,
it is a whole different thing. Like just playing someone in tournament, especially when they're the type to like have like these IRL reactions, it can really throw you off. But it's also like that's part of playing a tournament IRL, right? Like you have to be ready for that kind of thing.
Well, you lived through the trash talk era where that was super common.
Mm-hmm.
So you know all about that.
I feel like that's why I have a little bit of a thicker skin when it comes to stuff like that, because if someone says something, you know, mid-set or whatever, I'm just like, well, this pales in comparison to DA West like yelling in my ear like 2003. So
it's all a mind game.
Yeah.
Well, other than thick skin, I have a good question for you then, Chillin. To harken back to like every tournament experience or what have you. Mm-hmm. Do you have any strategies for it? Or do you know of other players that use strategies like IRL to like maybe loud music or
meditate?
Yeah. Meditation.
Those are both like two of the main strategies, honestly. I think if it really bothers you, then just wearing headphones and playing music can help. You also potentially lose the game audio there, but I know a lot of tournament setups these days will actually have like an audio splitter like next to it, so you can like get the audio yourself while the other person can still hear it. Mm-hmm. But that's not necessarily always the case. So there was a brief period where I was trying to go like super focus mode in tournaments, and I would just play music really loud so I couldn't hear anything else. I did lose the game audio, and I also felt like, I don't know, it just something about it kind of changed the way I played, where I didn't really prefer having, even though it did successfully, you know, block out. I mean, if the crowd gets loud enough, they'll get through the headphones anyway, but it would at least like block out like me thinking about the opponent's reactions as much IRL. But ultimately I decided I didn't like it for whatever reason. It didn't appeal to me as much as I thought it would. Especially, I guess, if I had had the game audio the whole time, though, I might be singing a different tune here, because I think the game audio is super important, and losing that definitely sucks.
I definitely have heard people like, I can't remember which player it was, but they were talking about how on stage, maybe at a Genesis, they had their music on as loud as possible, but it didn't keep. It kept the volume from the audience from entering their ears, but they could they could feel the stage shake.
Oh yeah, the vibration.
And that's all it's just like they could hear the game or they could hear whatever music they were doing, and they couldn't hear the crowd, but they could feel the stage shake.
Yeah. No, I mean,
that's pretty insanity.
That definitely happens. I think at some point it's like anything can distract you, right? Even your own thoughts can distract you. So yeah. I feel like if you are the type that meditates or does whatever you can do to like keep focus or get yourself in the focus mode, that's what you want to do, and not necessarily try to mitigate all the external factors, because they're gonna happen regardless. I think like there's no way to just completely shut yourself off from the outside world and just be inside the CRT, you know?
Yeah, you can't turn off the equivalent of Rocket League chat.
And honestly, if I were playing, like, I don't play Melee competitively, obviously, but if I did, I feel like hearing the crowd out loud would like pump me up and I'd play even better, hopefully.
Yeah, well, it depends on how it's going, you know. Like if they're rooting for you specifically, yeah. Like if they're rooting against you, then that shit hurts.
Do you think they're gonna cheer for a Luigi, Trey?
Yeah, just hey, I'm the underdog all the time, so they're gonna cheer for me.
That's true.
Everyone loves Luigi. So also, I got a thing. Speaking of Nintendo being a little questionable.
Oh yeah.
So Riptide, which is that like Smash Bros. Rivals of Aether Splatoon 2 tournament.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that getting contacted by Nintendo to cancel Project Plus. Also, is Project Plus the same as Project M, or what is that exactly?
Yeah, so it's basically just the re-release of Project M. They I guess rebranded it to try to get away from the fact that Nintendo had already kind of shut things down a few years ago. And
they just changed M to Plus and called it a day.
Pretty much. It's I do think it's there's been like slight updates, but it's basically just a new version of PM. And as far as Nintendo goes, that's such a dick move, man. Like if they were probably eyeing this for a while. If they were gonna do something like that, at least do it like a month or two in advance, because there's definitely, as small as the P+/PM scene is these days, there's still a good dedicated amount of players that were coming to Riptide specifically because it had like a respectable Project Plus event. And now they're like shit out of luck. It's like, okay, well, you can either go and play the other games, or you can try to get a refund on your ticket. Like, you know, it sucks ass either way. So the fact that Nintendo did it so close to the event makes it especially bad, in my opinion. Even though
also,
it would have sucked regardless.
One more thing about that. Do you think that if Nintendo never canceled Project M, essentially, it would be as big as Melee, if not bigger?
I don't necessarily think so, just because I think it has like inherent drawbacks of like new patches coming out all the time can actually, to me, that's like kind of a detriment because compared to Melee, it's like, okay, I know Melee's going to be this exact game every time I play it. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to P+, it was like kind of annoying having to, because like I mentioned before, I was actually like kind of a top PM player for like a year or two there. And when a patch came out and some random like character that I had no familiarity with suddenly had big buffs, like it would be so annoying to fight them in tournament where it's just like, I don't even know what you're doing anymore. Like what's going on here? So I think it had a lot of potential. I don't think it would be as big as Melee or Ultimate, but I think it would be like a strong like number 3, like right behind them if they hadn't shut it down.
See, all modern games sort of have this reliance on constant patching to mix things up or balance things more. Mm-hmm. But somehow not being able to patch Melee sort of works to its benefit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said for just having a consistent game that you know it's going to be the same thing every time. I mean, you guys as speedrunners can probably relate to that. Like it's, you know, that if you do the same input in the same spot every time, it's going to produce the same outcome. And when patches are thrown in the mix, it just kind of messes with that a lot. It makes it really odd when I was playing PM competitively and there would be a new patch and then I would just play a character that I'd played a bunch before, but they were suddenly way better. It like messed with my brain. Like
it's like, oh, I didn't work on trying to combo this guy. Like, I don't know what my combos are here.
Yeah. I remember specifically Samurai Man. He was actually getting pretty serious about Luigi in Ultimate, I believe. Not even Luigi in Smash 4. It was a while ago. And at some point, there was this crazy big nerf to Luigi. And I think it pretty much killed all of Samu's interest in playing it. He's like, I'm done with this. Screw it.
Oh.
Yeah.
It was pretty sad, actually.
It sucks from that perspective. Like, I get what they're doing, and I obviously don't, like, have an inherent problem with patches, but there's definitely something to be said for just the consistency of knowing a game's always going to be the same whenever you play it.
Mm-hmm. I respect the patching. I've been talking to... I'm not a Dota guy myself, but I've been talking to like KO about Dota, and I know a lot of Trey and I's friend group they're all into Dota. Dota, apparently the meta around Dota is like they patch it to mix it up, and then or like they add whatever to mix it up, and then the more developed the meta gets, the more boring it seems to get to the community, which is very interesting to me, coming from like especially a Sunshine or a speedrunner point of view that doesn't get their game patched, or Melee fan, where it's just to mix it up. Like,
is it because things become like too balanced?
I don't know. I like, they just get it gets to the point where it's not as entertaining for TI, where it's just like, you know what characters are going to be picked, and you know what combinations of strategies are going to be used, whereas and they the most developed a meta gets is before TI. Like, they can't update it within a certain period of time before the largest Dota tournament, so that everybody can just kind of get used to it. And
right.
So there's this big space of time, multiple months, where the game doesn't get touched, and it gets, because Dota's like obviously one of the bigger esports, or to some extent, it gets developed, or the meta gets pushed even faster than it should, and then once TI is over, everybody's just like, oh, thank God, we get a new meta.
So what you're saying is Melee people still can't determine if Martha Fox is better because it's still grassroots, right?
Maybe we just need more Melee players. I don't know.
It is an interesting. I've always kind of wondered, like, because there's always been discussion about how Melee is like pretty imbalanced, and then the later Smash games, it's like they release patches to try to balance it and stuff. Is it inherently a good thing necessarily, even that a fighting game is balanced? Like, to me, it almost makes it more interesting when it's like less balanced. Obviously, you don't want it to be like super top heavy or whatever, but I almost feel like it's worse for Ultimate that it's so balanced, because there's so many characters and so many matchups that it's like it's hard to even like get a feel for any of the particular matchups.
Is Ultimate so balanced? Is that true?
It's pretty balanced compared to every other Smash game, I think. Like, they've actually done a decent job with the patches, and I think there's definitely like clear top tiers and stuff, and a couple of clear shitty characters, but I think in between that, it's pretty damn balanced. Like,
see, the thing
there's
is,
a huge mid tier.
There's never going to be a game that doesn't have tiers as long as every character has different moves and different move sets. Like, you would have to have the exact same moves, otherwise there's going to be some variance.
Right.
But I definitely agree that, I mean, in single player games, which have multiple working parts, you can have a greater imbalance and still be fine, because it sort of characterizes, oh, this character is supposed to be strong story wise. This character has to be like sort of weak. But multiplayer PvP, I think that having some imbalance is definitely still important, but only up to a certain extent, to where there's not one like clear Meta Knight choice.
Meta Knight. Meta Knight choice. The meta choice. But like, if you look at Ultimate, if you just look at the fact that it's a bigger cast, I've seen tier lists where it's just like there's 20 characters in high tier, and then there's like 3 in top tier, but there's so many more tournament viable characters. So
yeah, that's true.
So what you're saying is, like, it takes more effort to be in tournament because there's so many more characters that are viable, rather than Melee, where it's just like it's a smaller. Sure, you might have to play a Game and Watch or a Luigi every so often, but mostly you're going to be facing the characters that you learn how to combo, like Captain Falcon or Sheik or Fox. Like, those characters, just like, oh, I know how to beat this character. Maybe this guy will kick my ass, but I've practiced against this. And then you run into a Zelda and go like, oh yeah, I don't know exactly what to do, but I know my character's better than her.
I mean, from a competitive standpoint, from actually like thinking about competing in tournaments, it's obviously better that there's fewer matchups to learn. But I even think from just a viewership perspective, like, if you see like so many viable characters that you don't even necessarily know like what's going on with like certain matchups, you know what I mean? Whereas in Melee, like, it's like 7 or 8 viable characters, right? So if you watch 2 of them play each other, you already know like what to expect. You kind of know how the matchup goes, as opposed to Ultimate, where it's like sometimes it's just, I have no idea what the hell's going on with some of these matchups at all.
Here's an interesting thought experiment. Do you think that every possible matchup in Ultimate has happened in tournaments yet?
Oh.
Every possible combination of matchups.
That's a great question. I don't know if it
has.
That
is a really good question.
There's so many that maybe it actually has. It's kind of absurd to think that there's a world that maybe not every matchup has actually happened in tournament, but it's kind of possible, which is insane.
You also have to think of Dittos, where it's like I've never seen two Mii fighters play each other.
Oh, that's never seen add one more possibility, like times what, 80 characters? How many characters are there?
I think it's about 80 right now.
Like 80 or something.
Yeah. That's a lot.
and there's at least 25 viable characters. At least. I think.
Yeah. I think it's in the 20s, 30s even maybe of tournament viable characters.
All I do with Ultimate or relating to Ultimate is look at Twitter, and every now and then Esam, to mention Esam again, he'll post a tier list, or whoever will post a tier list, and there are high is filled. Like to the brim. It's just like these are all high tiers. Like I don't know. They're just all good. I swear.
And then the high tier is insane in Ultimate. It's like 15 characters.
And like Sephiroth is in top for some, and then sometimes he's in high. But most of the time it's just high is to the brim, and then middle is just kind of whatever, and then Dr. Mario's at the bottom. That's the consistency.
Usually.
Is Bowser Jr. still like the worst character?
I think Bowser Jr. is okay. I know there was an upset at the Summit qualifier because Light was like the heavy favorite going into it, and then he lost to a Bowser Jr.
Ooh.
So it really feels like they did a decent job as far as making very few just unviable characters. I think it's like Little Mac, maybe Doc, I guess.
But the funny thing is that Little Mac will destroy newer players.
That's true. I mean, the few dedicated Little Mac mains do well when they go to
I remember playing online Ultimate when it just came out and being like, I hope I don't get Final Destination, and I hope I don't play a Little Mac because I am going to lose.
Yeah.
It's like me playing Trey in Melee and playing Zelda.
Oh, come on. Wait, you're saying you would lose against me as Zelda? What are you saying?
Or playing anybody on... Well, no, I'm just saying, like, randoms online, I play Zelda sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just like, oh, I can beat... Zelda's low tier, and then I kick them 3 times.
I know the Zelda matchup so well, because, like, Sid pretty much mains Zelda, and I play him a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, I wish I had done that before attending EVO 2017, because my first round in pools, I played against the Zelda and I got destroyed.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And now you play Zelda every time we play.
Had I played you for your 100 hours of Zelda or whatever before that, I could have probably fared pretty well.
Like, I know fared.
Nice. Yeah, literally.
Nice.
Or rather, avoided the fair, because
Melee jokes. Chillindude heard them all.
Oh, man.
So... Well, you know what? I think we need to get into the meat.
We got some news, right?
All right.
We got more news.
You know what? I want to share a bit of news. I'm assuming you don't have this one on your thing. Maybe you do.
I'm empty.
Well, I brought this up to you yesterday, but so you know what's going on in China right now?
I not specifically. No.
All right. Well, China is a country with a lot of people, as we all know.
Right.
And recently they put an article, or there's been many articles stating that China is now going to be limiting people below the age of 18 to a measly 3 hours of video games a week. 1 hour Friday, 1 hour Saturday, 1 hour Sunday at a set time.
It's specific?
What?
Yes, at specific 1 hour intervals, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
That's insane.
Oh
if you're below the age of 18 in China, you can only play video games, I guess, online in those hour intervals.
Yeah, it would have to be like online play for them to even limit it like that, right?
Yeah, because if it's offline, just like a SNES, you could play that.
Yeah. Wow.
But the thing is, there's been like already ways around this. I don't know if they're just theories or like they already instated it, but you can literally, because it's based on ID. So if you're whatever Chinese ID, I don't know what they'd use. If your ID says, oh, you're below 18, then this rule's in place. But I'm pretty sure kids are just using their parents' ID and saying, oh, this is me. Now let's play some video games.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's a lot of ways around it.
what a weird restriction, first of all. And then second of all, I'm sure kids will find ways around that as they have since the dawn
Gamers
of
will
time.
find a way. Gamers always find a way.
You just got to get NordVPN. No?
But so I think the reason they're doing this is because China is just so worried that video games is the main culprit for why younger generations aren't wanting to work as much, and they're not as, they're so, and to be fair, video game addiction is a real thing. And it probably develops especially early on in life. And with these current online games with loot boxes and all these like really addictive qualities,
That's gambling. Yeah.
Yeah, that's essentially gambling.
That's just gambling
Right.
addiction.
I can see why
Yeah.
this is like sort of a thing. But that being said, it's like, as Sid put it, imagine this weird reality where you're below the age of 18 and you're like, man, I can't wait till I'm 18. I can play more video games.
That's so funny. That is the funniest thing. Where it's just like, at first, when you DM'd me that, I read it wrong, or I read it right, and I thought wrong, where I was just like, it's like, oh, 3 hours a day.
Wait,
like,
a week? A week?
Yeah. Like, I had to reread it. It's just like, wait, 3 hours a week, and I thought day. And I was just like, oh, 3 hours a day? That sucks. And then I reread it. It was like 3 hours a week. What the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. And it's 1 hour a day. Like, what the heck is up with that?
But then I suggested it's just like when you turn 19 in Canada or 21, it's just like, oh yeah, I get to go out drinking legally. I've been doing it for 5 years, but like now I get to do it legally. And
Right.
or whatever, what have you, at whatever age. I can't imagine being a kid and then being excited to turn 18 just to play video games. Just like, that would suck so hard.
Oh my
Oh,
god.
man.
Oh my god.
It sucks really bad that they like split it up over 3 days too. Like if I for some reason was restricted to 3 hours a week, I would just do it all at once.
Yeah.
An hour, you're just like warming up, and then it's like it's over.
Yeah.
You can't do enough in that.
That's rough, dude. But I'm sure they've found several ways around it already.
All I'm going to say is I'm glad to both not be in China and not be under 18 right now. So
You didn't let me know about the splitting it up.
Yeah, I realized that actually earlier today. I read more articles and I was like, oh, that really sucks.
That's really gross. That they
we don't know if they're really going to commit to this or not. They will realize, oh, maybe video games weren't the only reason why people don't want to work as much. Could be other stuff.
Although if you were going for a sub-hour time in a speed run, that'd be pretty good motivation, right? Like,
true.
You have no choice but the sub-hour, or else the console will turn off.
You'd have to pick, like, China is only filled with Super Mario Brothers runners. It's just the original Super Mario Brothers, and they like do 7 attempts and then they're done for the day. And
there's not going to be any Zoomers playing Sunshine in China because the game's too long.
Yeah, that was my first reaction, actually.
Yeah, poor Zoomers in China, man.
No more Zoomers. Fuck yeah, let's go.
What, you're celebrating?
Yeah,
yeah. Get these Zoomers out of here. We want only old boys.
Here. We need boomers.
Let's go.
More boomers.
Oh man, playing on an IQ.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, actually, no. We've been saying this again. Like, there's no way to you can't regulate just like regular console play, I guess, right?
Yeah, like offline play, they can't do anything in theory.
Yeah.
Huh. So yeah, that's kind of weird.
Yeah, you just grind ILs.
Well, I guess these days most kids are playing like 90% online games, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, the vast majority is just online stuff. So.
See, it's also super lame because China, just like Australia to some extent does this too, but they regulate what games are sold a lot more strictly than every other country. And Australia does it too. Like they're all about censorship, or they used to be all about censorship. They're like, I think some Mortal Kombat recently wasn't allowed to be sold there until they, I don't even know if they ended up doing it. Yeah, it was basically a SNES era-esque thing, but Australia was very big about that. I don't know if they are still, but China, with its regulation, like they had to make a Call of Duty back in like 2012. They made a Call of Duty for just China because Call of Duty wasn't allowed to be sold there at all, and it was like a free-to-play version of Call of Duty that was only in China.
Huh.
Oh wow.
But you can imagine that they're regulated to 3 hours a week, one per those days, with a way limited subset of video games. So it's just like, it's just lame. It's just like a lamer version of everything.
No, it definitely sucks. But I mean, if that's all they had, I'm sure they still love it. Like, you know, if
they
if you were limited to,
they're just like, well, this is reality. This is how it works.
Exactly. Like all you have is a bootleg Call of Duty. That would be my favorite game of all time. If that's all I had.
You know, the kids these days grow up with exponentially better stuff than people growing up with Atari and the NES and stuff.
Pong is sick.
I mean, Pong is only exciting for so long.
True.
You see that Spider-Man game? You see that Spider-Man game for the Atari?
I have seen it. I see that ET game.
No, I don't think I ever have.
That was insane.
Oh man, I definitely think we hit the sweet spot of like age to video game ratio, because I feel like the late 90s, like early 2000s was just like the best video game era ever, and it's going to be hard to replicate.
Young millennials hit the sweet spot in terms of technology adaptation.
That's true.
But did we hit the sweet spot of difficulty?
Ooh. That was
nice
I got a semi-chub from that transition. That was so good.
Yeah. All right,
here we go.
Who wants to start it off? Chillin', you want to start it off?
Do the honors?
Yeah. So apparently we had this discussion last time. I forgot already, but
we mentioned it.
It's been a while.
It was basically in passing. You went, next time I'm on the show, we have to talk about this, and it might not have even been on the podcast. It might have been our like 15-minute after podcast conversation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, long story short, I think that for the past like 20 years, games have been getting a lot easier, and I think there's a lot to be said for like the accessibility, for making them more beginner friendly or whatever. But I really feel like you don't have to lose the accessibility to make like a challenging game. You can still have a difficult game, but just, you know, it's just like ramp up the difficulty in a better way so that, you know, whoever's new to the game can sort of figure it out and then start to get to the hard parts or whatever, rather than just dumbing everything down. Because this is I think the first time I noticed this was when MLG had Melee back in like the mid 2000s. Okay. When we started hearing stuff about Brawl, we were all like, we don't like how this sounds. Like, why there's tripping, like everything's slower paced, like everything's purposely easier. Again, in theory, it's for accessibility, but for, you know, us hardcore gamers who really want to push it to the limit, that sucks. And then I had this discussion with some of the Halo 2 pros at MLG, because they, for whatever reason, they were huge Melee fans. Like, they just loved watching Melee. So I actually ended up talking to a lot of the Halo 2 pros at MLG. And they started talking about Halo 3. And they were like, dude, the same thing is happening in Halo 3. They're taking out... Because apparently Halo 2 had all these like advanced techniques that weren't intended. It was like you could like cancel a shot with the reload and then instantly shoot again or something. I forget the specifics. It's like BXRs and stuff. If anyone actually knows Halo 2, they'll know what I'm talking about. But all of that got taken out for Halo 3. And so that's when I first like had this thought of like, damn, are they really just dumbing down games like across the board for everyone? And then the more time that has passed, it's kind of true. Like, I mean, if you compare like Mario Odyssey even to like,
hey, I was gonna be like Sunshine to Galaxy, and you'd be right.
Galaxy as well. So Odyssey is fine because Odyssey at least like keeps some semblance of like fast movement, and like it is still way easier of a game, I think. But
Odyssey,
it at least
it's very
has
easy
advanced tech.
It's very easy to feel like you're good at Odyssey.
Yeah, that's exactly the point.
Yeah. Like they. At the same time, though, at the top level, there's still like a, you know, huge difficulty curve and stuff.
Yeah,
but
of course.
It's definitely just across the board that I've seen where it feels like developers are purposely trying to make make it easier to feel like you're good at a game and not have to put as much time in, which again, from a mass appeal perspective makes sense, but kind of sucks as like someone who likes to put a lot of time into a game to get good at it.
Yeah, it makes total sense because, I mean, the majority of people, you know, as much as we don't like to admit it, just want to come home after a long day of work and they're tired. Just want to sit down, be good, not get kicked, not get your ass kicked in the game. You know, you want to have a good time. But then there's the people who game for a living and they want to have a pretty like developed meta and like highly skilled gameplay. And that, you know, I didn't even know that Halo 3 was dumbed down from 2. That's interesting. I always thought that 3 was like just as technical as 2.
But it's, I think 3 is still well received for the most part. Like it wasn't as bad as Melee to Brawl, but I do remember hearing like all the pros kind of complaining about 3 compared to 2, and that 2 was more technical and stuff like that.
So Wait, what about 2 versus 1? Were 1 and 2 pretty similar?
I think 2 was like in at least for the players at the time that I talked to, 2 was like the GOAT. 1 I don't think had nearly as many like advanced techniques and stuff as 2.
It's a little too archaic. It's like Smash 64 kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. Perfect comparison.
I was going to make that comparison.
A lot of like games in that era, it kind of followed the same path too, where it's like the first one is like, all right, they're just figuring it out, and then the second one's a masterpiece, and then the third one they're like, you know what, let's make this easier.
You know what, the second one was sick. What if we make it the same game but everyone can be that cool, and then boom.
Yeah.
If we're talking about just online games, I will agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't know if difficulty like making things easier is much of a trend in solo games, like the roguelikes and all of the Dark Souls.
I mean,
trends.
The thing is, especially in like indie games keep the trend of wanting to have like complex gameplay.
That's true.
But I guess Dark Souls too.
But with online games, I will agree with you wholeheartedly because like Fortnite, I know that Fortnite, when it started, everybody was like, oh, the deep mechanics or whatever. Like maybe there's a Fortnite person out there being like, oh shit, they're talking about Fortnite, or there's somebody that used to be a Fortnite lover that hates Fortnite now. It's just like, oh, he's talking about how good the mechanics in Fortnite is.
Booga, you're out there. We hear you.
Yeah, Booga's out there. I know at some point they removed 90s in Fortnite, where it's just
is that
just
the thing
like,
that JJ was telling us about?
Yeah, they removed the ability to just build really, 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 really fast. And they nerfed it to the point where like you basically everybody could build at the same speed, and everybody hated it. And they like to the point where everybody got them to remove they just don't want to have that much of a skill ceiling because they want somebody to join the game and be like, well, I can kind of play, like, sure, I'm going to get sniped from however far distance away, but like this bullshit strat isn't going to be used against me because this guy practices it. And Apex Legends within the past week, I saw that Optimistic Emo and like some of the Mario Kart Double Dash players, they posted a tweet where they apparently had removed micro strafing. Apparently, which is
was it called micro strafing or
something about strafing?
Tap strafing or something?
Tap strafe, like something.
I forget what it was called.
They were talking about removing it, and everybody hates it. Like all the pro players, online games love it's the OnlyFans effect, where it's just like they love
that's a phrase.
They love at first when everybody joins the game and goes like, oh, this is the deep mechanics of it. Oh, I love investigating all of it. But at some point, they want to remove the porn. And and they go like, hey, we want to welcome everybody into this game / online site. And you know what? Under 18, they can't watch porn for more than 3 hours in China.
So we
need to let them in.
Oh, shit. That's even worse than the 3-hour gaming, dude.
You can only at these specific times watch porn.
Oh, man.
But anyway, yeah. So they at some point become so comfortable with their player base that they're just like, oh yeah, we want more though, and they want to welcome in the newer casual player base. I will wholeheartedly agree that online games are going that way. Or they maybe they don't initially go that way, where it's just like maybe it's not a trend game wise, but it's a trend within their life cycle.
But it's also definitely a thing from single player game to single player game, because I've mentioned this before, but the most egregious example I can think of is with Mario Golf of all things. Mario Golf Toadstool Tour had such on the surface. Okay, here's the thing, right? You can still have a game with deep mechanics, but have like a low skill ceiling, or how do I phrase it? You can have a high skill ceiling to where learning the deep mechanics gives you a bit of an edge, but you don't have to know that stuff to play like decently well.
Right.
And that was exactly what Toadstool Tour did, where if you just, did some regular auto swing, didn't really factor in wind too much, or like where you hit the ball precisely, you can still like get pars and birdies, like it's, not too hard. But knowing how to use wind and utilize spin, and also there's like frame perfect timing involved with the meter and everything, to give you that slight edge to like generally win as a skilled player. The new Mario Golf that came out recently took all of that out. It's all auto swing. All you can do is like add mid-air curve, but there's no timing really. It's just like, oh, meter go up, stop the meter. There's no,
Right.
It's just so much more bare bones than it used to be. And it's not a bad game, but it's not Toadstool Tour.
Yeah.
Meter go up. Meter go up. Stop meter.
It's
Meter
literally
go
just
up.
meter go up. I can stop it anywhere here. It'll be fine. Whatever. It's like, it's not the same.
Yeah. I don't like the fact that so many games take out depth in favor of like they think that makes it more appealing to the masses, and that's not even necessarily true, because I mean, as you just said, like a lot like Melee, for example, when we were kids, no one gave a damn about like wave dashing or whatever, you know what I mean?
You can still use items and do whatever you want. You can make it as casual as you want, but the option to make it not casual is there.
Exactly. Like, I hate the fact that a lot of the newer games seem to take out the option to make it super competitive, and it's like only casual, as opposed to having, the option to at least be a lot deeper if you want to take it to that level.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my main complaint.
The biggest complaints with what was it, Street Fighter 4 to Street Fighter 5?
Mm-hmm.
I saw a video from, I believe, Core A Gaming, who makes like really good fighting game content. He had a video specifically about how they dumbed down the new Street Fighter so much. You have anything? You played Street Fighter before, right?
Yeah, that actually is exactly how I felt about Street Fighter 4 to 5, where I really liked 4, and it was kind of the game that filled like the competitive void after I stopped playing Melee when Brawl came out. Mm-hmm. So I actually played for a decent amount from like 2009 to like 2012-ish, and when 5 came out, it felt like they like lost like some of the soul of the game. Like it didn't have nearly as interesting combos. It was all like, it seemed like everyone just had like a 3-hit combo and then that was it. And again, I don't know that game that well, but I do know one thing for sure that they made easier was they took out any 1-frame links.
Right, they always increase the frame window on stuff.
Yeah, so it's at least 2 frames for any link in the game, which with plinking, you kind of get an extra frame for those, because if you tap like a higher priority button into a lower priority button, like let's say like high punch to medium punch, then it comes out as high punch, and then on the next frame it's medium punch, high punch, and in that scenario high punch like takes a priority, so it essentially doubles your window for getting links. So essentially the hardest link in SF5 with plinking would be like 3 frames, which it's like, okay, I mean, more people can do the combo now, but I don't see how that's a good thing in this case.
See, they think it's good because if everyone is more evenly skilled, it leads to more upsets, and there's no like super dominant players who know like all the advanced stuff.
Have they never watched Incredibles? If everybody knows the combo, nobody will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true.
Do you think it has something to do? Do you think that frame rule has anything to do with online, rather than like making everybody be able to do the combo? Maybe it has something to do with online and like. Well,
I know that applies in Smash to some extent, because I know that Smash has Melee didn't have any buffer, and then since Brawl, it's had like a pretty absurd. I think it was like 10 frames in Brawl, 10 frames in 4, and then they upped it to 15 for Ultimate for some reason. Yeah, it's so much. Like that's quarter a second of buffer is absurd. But I feel like they did that for online specifically, but yeah, it's like not necessary. You could at least have the option to turn it on or off, or do it only for online. Like when you play online, there's that buffer, but offline it doesn't exist. For Street Fighter 5, I don't know though, because I mean that links being 2 frame minimum still applies offline, and it definitely dumbs the game down a little bit, I think, just because everyone can hit everything now. So
everyone can hit everything.
Basically, I mean,
it's over. The game's over. It's done.
You could, I guess, make the argument that it boils more down to like the neutral play then. And then I think, because I have heard from some more old school Street Fighter players that they actually prefer 5 over 4 because it's more about footsies, it's more about neutral. But like, to me, it's just not as entertaining when the combo system is way dumbed down and there's not as many options to like be creative in 5 compared to 4, I think.
Do you think so? We went into the fact that I think we all agree that online games kind of dumb it down. Mm-hmm. Do you think there's a trend with easier games one player? Like we talked a little bit about like Sunshine to Galaxy or whatever, but like in 2011 or in 2009 when Demon Souls and Dark Souls came out, it reignited like some of the old school NES vibe where it's just like, yeah, I don't care if you can beat it or not. We're going to sell this game and people are going to just bash their head up against it until they figure it out.
See, I don't think that there's a certain limit to where, again, there's like that Smash 64 era where they're figuring it out. And the original Zelda 1 was like, it's arguably one of the most influential games of all time. Yeah. But playing it now, if you go and try to play Zelda 1 with no guides, no game facts, walkthroughs, good luck getting anywhere.
Yeah, I don't know where to go. I actually don't know where to go.
You can get to like the first temple probably, then maybe find something else, and then you're like, well, I don't know what to do. There is like that point where they were figuring it out, and it's hard, sure, and like part of the point back then was you would buy a game and developers had to find ways to make the games last as long as possible because they were limited so much in terms of what they could do. But like they eventually reached a sweet spot where like they sort of streamlined it more, but it was still difficult. E.g., I guess Link to the Past was that niche. I never really played Link to the Past, but I guess you can assume that.
Yeah, but, I agree with you.
Yeah, I don't know. So at some point, the amount of streamlining just increased over time until they got lost in translation. And it's like, we're just going to dumb it down and not even, we're just going to explain everything and it's going to be super obvious to everyone. And that's going to be the game.
Well, it's what's his name? We talked about him last week. The Games Grump guy. Ego Raptor. It's the Ego Raptor tour through Disneyland rule, right? Where it's just
it even started with Link to the Past.
Yeah, where he's just like, oh, you get dropped in this world and explore, go for it. But
you know what's funny is that as much as I love RPGs, every RPG that I play has somewhat of a feeling of the tour at Disney. Yeah. Because they give you this big world to explore. I mean, at first it's pretty linear, like you gotta like do the tutorial stuff and sort of intro area. Then over time in the RPG, the world opens up, but it's all an illusion because it's a single player. Somewhat like the story is linear, but the world, it gives you the illusion that it's open, but in actuality, it's like, well, we're sort of like the invisible hand of the game. We're pushing you to this one place. And it's sort of like, oh, next on the tour, I got to go to this dungeon. Next on the tour is this city. And I don't know, there's really no way to avoid that unless it was just pure open world 100%, which I don't even know if that's possible. But yeah, it's just, that's something I noticed.
Yeah, I think with single player games, it kind of has been going the direction of like easier difficulty, but less so. And it's at least like, it's more case by case. I guess, I mean, being very much like a Nintendo fanboy growing up. I've mostly still stuck to Nintendo games for the most part, and they've definitely gotten easier like across the board. So, and then there's definitely a lot of games that specifically go for, like this is old school difficulty level. This is not going to be a freebie like the newer games are, like Dark Souls, and like a lot of indie games are like that. But it's crazy that that's like a gimmick now. Just like being a hard game is almost like a gimmick in itself. That
isn't it sad how the meme exists where anything that's hard is the Dark Souls of something?
Yeah, that is kind of sad.
It's sad because there should be many Dark Souls-like games where it's not a freebie. Like, it should be more hard games, right?
Well, yeah, the Cuphead, the Hollow Knight, just like they're the Dark Souls of whatever they are.
Yeah, it's just silly to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't like that trend in general, although it's not the end of the world since at least there are the hard options still. But as far as like competitive games go, I definitely feel like they've lowered the depth across the board over the past like 10, 15, 20 years, and it sucks.
I don't know if you have much experience with them, but do you think there's still a lot of depth to the more indie kind of fighting games, such as Them's Fighting Herds and whatnot?
Great example.
I've never played those games, but I heard they're pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are. I haven't played Them's Fighting Herds specifically, but
wait, no, you didn't play with Toph? What?
No, did I? No, I didn't.
No,
you're missing out.
But yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of it's unfortunate that it's like smaller games, right? But a lot of smaller games try to retain that vibe of like you can still play it casually, but you can also really dig in deep and learn this game like, a lot more than most average people will bother to do, but at least you have that option to get really sick at something if you want to put in the time. But it just feels like, especially for the more popular games and the more competitive games, like they've been phasing that out for sure.
Mm-hmm. I just wrote it down. When was the last time you guys saw, like in a newer game, when was the last time you guys saw a difficulty choice?
Isn't that pretty common?
I feel like it's still
in games
fairly
nowadays?
common.
Yeah, that's pretty common.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've seen that a couple times.
Fire Emblem Three Houses got maddening mode.
Oh yeah, I guess so.
It was quite maddening at times.
The only trend that I want to stop, like I'm fine with games being as easy as they want. Like put whatever mechanics you want in. Like maybe not every game put the easy mechanics in. Like have the subset that has the really hard stuff that everybody can dig into. But like I'm sick of everybody holding my hand all the time. I don't want to. I don't want to have the EGADs of the world, the fees in Skyward Sword. I don't want everybody telling me that. I don't even want characters in game to tell me when I'm wrong. I like, it's just like, I just want to try a thing, and if it's wrong, I don't want to. I don't want Mega Man. I don't want that pop up.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. So, do you think that at a certain point, like you're playing Abduction?
Yeah.
At a certain point,
it's different.
Do you want some sort of hint system where it's like, I don't know what the fuck to do at all. I'm just totally stuck.
No, I want the world to exist. I want them to say anything to me in that.
You just want to, like, even if you're stuck for like 3 days straight, you're like, this is fine. This is fine.
Okay, Chillindude, for context, I'm playing a game Abduction. There's absolutely no, like, there's a guy that goes like, oh, you should turn on the water to plant this tree. If you've ever played Mr. Riven, like from way back in the day, or heard about those games, it's just like one of those PC puzzle games. I haven't even run into a puzzle yet. But like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just have to like, there's this trolley. I have to water this tree, but this trolley has a laser that removes rocks, and I don't know what to do. And I'm just stuck.
Oh man.
Do you prefer?
I don't. What?
You prefer that feeling to getting your hand held?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Actually, yes. But I would prefer something that makes sense. Like, I just want to hit a stride where it makes sense what thing runs into another thing. You know, where it's just like you solve a thing in a game, and then the next thing I just want to have any momentum whatsoever in that game. That's actually what I want. I want to solve a thing and then maybe solve another thing, and then maybe run into a thing that I have like some hint as to what I'm supposed to do instead of like half
Just
solving
guessing.
a thing. Yeah, instead of half solving a thing, moving into the next area and then being immediately stumped and not knowing what the hell is going on. That is what I want. But I don't need EGAD to come out of nowhere, or the girl from the Ego Raptor video going, Mega Man, Mega Man. I don't need any of that. I just want everything to make sense to me. I don't know. That's where I'm at.
I get what you're saying. I feel like having some semblance of like hints or a general idea of where to go is definitely good, but it's also annoying when the game just completely holds your hand the whole time, because it's like, well, let me figure something out, or else I'm just kind of... It almost feels like you're like playing through a visual novel when it holds your hands too much. It's just like, come on, man.
Like Luigi's Mansion 3.
I haven't played
really
that.
funny.
Is it like that?
Yeah, it is kind of like that.
Of all the games in existence, we reference Luigi's Mansion 3 the most, probably.
Yeah.
Just because that's why EGAD's our profile picture on this channel.
It's the only game that we played through for the show, for the podcast.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
nostalgia. Like, I love LM1. LM3 is going to be fine, but it's like, it was a game.
It was okay. But yeah, I just, that's all I want. I want the ability, like in the new Skyward Sword HD, apparently they removed, or they made it so that you can skip Fi or Fi. I don't know how to say her name. But like, that was the biggest issue of Skyward Sword, where it's just like the temples were good, some of the boss fights were good, maybe the motion controls were off for a lot of people, but they committed wholeheartedly to it and it was good. But there was this side character that everybody, I think Navi wasn't that bad. Fi or Fi is insanely, like, she just drones on about everything. And they turned her off.
I haven't played Skyward Sword, so I wouldn't know.
Only Sid knows.
Only Sid knows. Only Sid knows, and I'm pained by it. You know.
I guess all we can really say is video games were hard. Am I right?
Yeah.
Might have to change the name of the podcast.
Probably.
The video games that we play are hard.
That's true.
Well,
because we still play the old ones.
Yeah.
When they used to be hard all the time.
We make them harder because of what we do with them.
That's true.
That sounds gross, but sure, yeah.
I realized that the moment I finished saying it, and I was like, no,
and then Chillindude wholeheartedly agreed. He was just like, yeah.
He was right.
So Chillindude, you're speedrunning right now quite a bit, right?
Yeah. Well, only Mario 64. I was going to say mostly, and then I was like, well, it's technically not true.
The Sunshine Return.
How has the speedrun grind been going, and are you balancing that with Melee and other fighting game stuff, or like what are you generally doing, and what's like your plans?
So I was focusing on Mario for a while now because I just was really unhappy with my 70-star PB and felt like it was way worse than it should be. And then I got a decent PB like last week. It wasn't.
Congrats.
Thank you.
Woo.
It wasn't anything insane, but it was a lot better than before, at least. And so now I think I'm gonna start to focus on Melee a bit more again. I've been playing Melee for the past like 3 or 4 months on and off, but I feel like I don't want to like push too hard, and because if I start grinding like 5 hours a day or whatever, and then I don't have good results in tournament, it just feels really bad. You know what I mean? It's like I've like overcommitted to something, and if it doesn't go the way that I want, then it just sucks. But if I kind of ease back into it, then I can kind of ramp up my practice to where I want it to be without like getting discouraged easily. So
there's a thing with practice where like at a certain point, if you practice too much, even in speedrunning, you think, oh man, I put in like 8 hours a day for the past month. I'm going to be insane now. And then if you're not insane, you're just like even more mad at yourself.
Right. It's so easy to get discouraged. That happens to me in speedrunning all the time too, but also in Melee, where it's just like you almost overthink everything, right? Because it's like, okay, I've put so much time into this that there's no way that I can mess it up now. And then you mess it up and you're like, well, this is BS. Like I put this many hours into something. Why do I still suck at it? But it's like, that's not the mentality you can approach it with. It's like, you can always mess anything up, and you're upping your odds by practicing a lot, but you can't like necessarily expect it to be like 100% or whatever. But when you do grind that much at a certain thing, then you kind of expect that result, even if that's not what happens. And then if it doesn't happen, then it's really easy to get like way more upset than you would have been otherwise.
Yeah,
right. The way. Go ahead.
I was just about to say that it's still hard to perform in the moment. Like even with all of that practice, you can go right.
I was gonna say that you can't base results on just one tournament or one stream of runs on that. It's like any given tournament, no matter how prepared you are, could go up in flames, or like any session of attempts. But in the long run, over many streams, you're going to be playing better in general versus before you practice, like almost guaranteed.
That's always my mentality for specifically speedrunning, where it's just like you spend upwards of however many hours doing a specific IL or practicing a specific strat or whatever. My mentality every time going into a new stream or a new run or whatever, I sit there and go, or like the first stream after learning all that stuff, I go, because I dedicated all that time to it, first run, it'll be shit. And I know it's going to be bad. I'm going to screw that up.
That's a good mentality.
Yeah, it actually is.
Yeah, it is actually a good mentality because like there are differences between RTA versus like individual levels. And like if you're practicing an IL or practicing a specific strat, you're just replaying it over and over again to get it right a few times. But like when you're doing it in a run, you're actually like linking it with everything you did beforehand, and eventually your muscle memory will become more well-rounded.
Right.
But like the first day, whenever I do it, I'm just like, yeah, I'll try it. I have no promises. Maybe I did it well yesterday when I was doing it totally separate or segregated from everything else that I was doing. But maybe tomorrow it'll go well though.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good way to look at it, but that's definitely something that I've always had an issue with both melee and speedrunning. Is like, if I learn a new strat in speedrunning and then I grind it a lot and get it down, then I just expect to nail it in the next run.
Yeah.
And that's really dumb. Like, obviously I shouldn't be looking at it like that. And then even if I do look at it like that, I shouldn't get so discouraged if I don't get it. But I do. Like, I think that's very much like human nature to like think that way though.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes when you dedicate a lot of time to something and then you were just like, okay, now it's like, I can't imagine for like speedrunners or whatever, like sure you can do 7 hours or whatever of attempts, and maybe like hour 5 you'll get it right, but at like the Olympics or just like a big event, and practicing all that time and then just getting last, or just like not performing on the day as well as you think you would. Right. I can't imagine how much that could destroy you.
Oh my God, dude, there's some Olympic events that must be just so stressful. I can't even imagine.
Yeah. Like I was really good at high jump when I was in school, and I beat everybody in my grade and went to the meet.
I'm sorry, I'm imagining you being there 6'3", everyone else like 5'6". Yeah, I'm destroying you guys. What's up?
I'm kicking everybody's ass at high jump, and I beat like not the record for the school, but like I came close. And I went to the meet and I tied for last.
Ooh,
and
nerves, man.
And it's actually insanity. And I like performed 20 centimeters lower than I should have. Or 15 centimeters, and it was just I just was not there. And
dang, I'm sorry to hear that.
And video games. Well, what? How long ago was it? Let's do the math. 17 years ago.
Yeah.
It was great. It was grade 8, I think. I wasn't in high school.
I don't think. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. So literally 17 years ago. I think I'm okay. But like if you translate the same thing to like tournament performances, like I imagine it's kind of the same deal, right?
Yeah, I mean it definitely is, but at least with with tournaments, you have the bonus of, the other person's nervous too.
Whereas, and the bonus of it's double elimination.
That too. So you at least have a couple chances. With speedrunning, it can be especially frustrating because it's just you in the game, and if you messed it up after nailing it 500 times in practice, then you just messed it up. Like occasionally there's like some weird scenario that you just somehow never encountered practicing it that comes up, and then that actually feels like BS when it's like like in Mario 64, like invisible walls and stuff like that happen, and you're just like, okay, well, I can't really, even though those are theoretically like people kind of know how to avoid those at this point too. So on a long enough timeline, you can figure out everything like down to a science, but it's just super frustrating when you don't nail something that you've been practicing a ton. And I've talked about this on my stream a lot, where I feel like it's almost bad to over practice something. If you have a good idea of how to do it and you're doing it pretty well, then just probably move on. Like, because if you overdo it, then you're bound to overthink it in practice. Like I had this issue with Owless for months, where if I didn't practice Owless, I would just nail it. But if I practiced it a bunch and then I went into runs, every time where I was about to do the wall kick, I would just like think to myself, like, don't do it early, don't do it early, or like, don't do it late. And then that would cause me to do it early or late. And it was so frustrating. Like I obviously don't recommend like not practicing stuff, but there is something to be said for like the amount that you practice something.
I've got a question for something that I experience, and I'm sure every speedrunner experiences to like at least some extent. But you know that feeling when you're standing next to a cliff and you're like, I could just fall right now and die.
Like the Call of the Void or whatever.
Or you're driving on the road. You're like, I'm driving. I could literally just veer off and kill myself right now.
Right.
but like obviously like you don't do that. It's just like your brain telling you like theoretically this can happen. That's kind of weird, right? But
yeah, it is kind of like that, honestly.
In speedrunning, especially when it's like Bianco 6 after the long cube climb, and you're like, man, if I die, it's over.
Yeah.
Do you get that feeling where it's like it just freaks you out because you just know like I could just do the thing I've been practicing for hours and hours, or I could just die, like, and then it just freaks you out. I always get that every time.
I think I definitely get that too, and it's really weird because sometimes it just won't happen. Sometimes it's like my muscle memory just fully takes over and I have no doubt that I'm going to nail it because I've done it so many times. But sometimes I'm like, well, what if I just mess up this one jump in this certain way and I end up losing all this time? Like it's speedrunning mentality is such a weird thing. I think we discussed this a lot last time too, but it's just like such an odd thing to me to try to piece together like how you have a good speedrun mentality.
Well, there's so much more punishing stuff in speedrunning versus playing Melee. Like, sure, you might SD, which is pretty punishing, but for the most part, if you're just, your tech is on point for that day, it comes down to just like little neutral interactions, and there's like not as devastating an effect of like one minor slip up.
Yeah, because if you're playing well in Smash, then overall you're still going to tend to do well, and the one SD is not a game changer. Whereas in speedruns, it's like you're off one frame and you could just lose a run, even if you're playing amazing. It could just ruin everything if you mess one thing up. So,
I get a similar thing where it's not like, oh, I could just lose this run. My thing is I have the same feeling, but in a different way, where it's like, oh, this is really stressful that I'm ahead right now. This is a really good pace run. I could just end it.
Yeah.
Like I could just jump off and die, and you know what? It would be over. Like I could turn off the game. It would be done. The
fact that you're ahead and you're the only one in charge of your destiny right now is scary.
Yeah. But it's not like I'm
this
scared
is all
of
on me.
But it's not that I'm scared of potentially screwing up. My safe haven is potentially screwing up.
Yeah.
Like that's my inner peace. Just like, oh, if I screw up, then it's over. You know,
Yeah.
I don't have to feel like this anymore.
Well, I think that's a great mentality to have because then it's like win-win, right? Like either the run keeps going well or you mess up and you get to stop.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen that so many times. I've seen so many famous world record clips, whether it's Mario Bros or Ocarina of Time, where the person's just like, they're hyping themselves up. They're like, well, either I get it or I don't. And like, it's true. You know, that's what can you say?
That is true. The truest statement ever.
Yeah. It's funny, like the methods people use to like try to calm themselves down. Like I remember Simply's world record last year, he just kept saying the run was bad when it clearly wasn't.
Oh, that is
like,
the classic, the #1 classic go-to.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, this could be better, you know, it's whatever.
I mean, I respect that. You got to do
ahead.
what you can, but I remember there was one really good Sunshine run I had a few years ago that I was on like insane pace. Like I was like a minute plus ahead and like everything was going well. And I think it was like pre-DMCA worries, so I was listening to like a Drake song, and I just started making fun of one of Drake's lyrics, like just to like calm myself down. I was like, I have to focus on something other than the game, and I was like, isn't it really dumb how he says Bill's so big we call him Williams for real? You know, he doesn't call his Bills Williams. And I just like kept talking about that for like all of Serena because I was terrified of like anything happening.
Yeah, a lot of people in chat try to be like, "Oh, don't read chat; it's distracting." But honestly, reading chat and like acknowledging it it distracts you from the run at hand.
Yeah, it calms you down a lot.
It calms you down. I said distract in a good way, not like, "Oh, I'm so distracted. Oh, I can't focus."
It's just you, like it's kind of cheesy, but you have to enter this zone where it's like you want to be focused on the run. Like you don't want to be so detached from the run that you screw up. But you don't want to be so attached to the run that you screw up.
That's called the flow state.
You just
100%.
like if you're too focused, you will mess this run up, and it will because you're just way too focused. Like if you think about what your hands are doing at a specific moment during,
oh, that freaks me out every time,
dude. It will always screw you up.
I hate that. Yeah,
it was just like, oh yeah, I have to like move my thumb like this. It's like, no, I don't want to think about what my thumb is doing. I'm just I have to do the thing and trust my muscle memory or whatever. But then if you distract yourself too much, then maybe you'll think you'll be entering a different episode than you think, or entering a different input or whatever, and then you're just way too distracted. So it's just it's the cheesy answer of there's a zone and you just have to hit it. Perfect.
Yeah, flow state.
It's a fine line for sure. I've talked about that a bunch too, where in recent runs I always feel like I'm either focusing too much or not enough, and it's like I don't know how to maintain that sweet spot of like, because you want to rely on your muscle memory mostly, but you also like can't completely rely on it. You can't like not think about the game at all.
Yeah, sometimes there's reactionary stuff like Manta boss fight or random chance stuff can happen.
What was it, Trey? We were in a call. We were in a call while I think I was doing ILs, or maybe I was streaming, and you were talking, and there's this art of being in a Discord call or whatever, but you know that the other person isn't paying attention.
Yeah, so
to what they're saying.
This is actually like a really tried and true art tactic. Back when I played Mario Kart Double Dash, and you know, me and the MT heads often were in VCs grinding time trials, we would see someone else is on really good pace. They hit lap 3, they're 0.4 ahead or whatever, and the key thing. So the best strats to make the person not choke. Your initial instinct is like, oh, stop talking.
Oh, we got to watch this.
Like serious time. Right. Everyone shut up. He's focused. That is the worst possible thing you can do, because as soon as it goes like needle drop, dead silence, that just freaks him out even more. The key is, and also option B, acknowledge the run like, oh yeah, let's go. Oh, let's keep it.
Also bad.
Also pretty bad. Option C though, the ultimate hack is to keep talking as if you don't see the craziness that's happening right now.
Yeah.
Right.
And just like don't acknowledge it at all. Just keep talking naturally. And that's the best thing you can do.
I just remember you doing that for one of like I was doing. I think I was
I
streaming.
think I
and it
remember
was
you
just
talking
like,
about, yeah.
I was just on really, really good pace, and you just for like an IL or whatever, and you just kept talking, and then it was over, and I was just like, yes, and you were just like, and I was just like, I didn't pay attention to anything you just said, and you were just like, yeah, I knew, yeah, I knew.
It's like, not gonna lie, I know you don't hear what I'm saying, but I'm just saying this so you don't choke this.
Right.
It's kind of funny.
No, that's definitely the way. It's like, it's such a fine line, man. The messed up part is you could actually still distract someone in that scenario, right?
Yeah,
By like,
true.
and you don't mean to, and you're trying to do like the best thing possible, which is just like keep talking casually, but that could end up somehow distracting them as well. But it's still certainly the best option out of the three of like either being silent or popping off or just continuing the casual conversation.
Okay, you guys, all right. Trey knows the scenario. Chillindude, you might not know the scenario, but it made you talking about that and us talking about this made me think of the time where I was in a race with Reed. Trey,
Okay.
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
know
I
what
think
I'm
I
talking
remember
about?
this. Yep.
So Trey and I were, or Reed and I were going to do a double any percent. Reed was on the podcast last week for anybody, whatever, or the other week. We were doing a double any percent plus a 96 shine race. And because I'm really good at 96 shines in Super Mario Sunshine, and Reed is really good at any percent, and I will always
Especially
lose to
early
him at
game.
90%. Pardon me?
Especially early game.
Yeah, especially early game.
Right.
And so we were going to do a double any percent into 96. The first any percent run of this race, he was on world record pace.
Oh, wow.
And it like fell apart in Pinna or whatever, or in Pianta or whatever level.
Might have been like Serena. It was crazy.
It was a really good run, and it fell apart, and he was like, oh, okay, but it's fine. Like he actually stayed composed, and I was the only person in the call with him. This is very important for context. We were in a call together, and we were talking back and forth. We were having a good time. And then the second race started. I think I lost by a minute, maybe, the first race, which is sad because it was like a world record pace run versus my like 118 or 119. So like that's how far it went. Like that's how badly it went eventually. And the second run, he was on world record pace again, even better pace.
Oh, I didn't know the first one was the same way. Wow.
Yeah, even better pace, and it died in Noki 6.
Wow.
And I'm just being like me being worse at any percent. I'm just like 2 minutes behind. I don't know what to do. Like he's on really good pace.
Do I console him? Do I?
Well, even before that, like, do I talk about how good of a pace he's on? Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, because it's an hour. It's versus a Mario Kart Double Dash IL or a Sunshine IL. That's like 2 minutes. Like,
Right.
Nobody. It's just like, oh, I can keep talking for 2 minutes. I can't keep him distracted enough for an hour and a half. So. Like, even before when it was on a really good pace in Rico and he's talking to chat and I'm talking to mine and we're talking to each other and we're just hanging out. And then it all falls apart in Noki. What the and he like, he
broke some Legos. It wasn't pretty.
The joke is he broke a Lego set. Something like sounded like it shattered.
Do we, is it even confirmed it was a Lego set? Do we even know that?
They just sounded like, just imagine the sound of a Lego set on a desk being smacked. And just like pieces falling off.
The first thing you told me was, dude, he broke his Lego set.
Dude,
I was like, I didn't even see a Lego set. What the heck?
That's exactly what I thought when it happened. But it's just like you're in a call one-on-one and he smacks it. And he's just like, he rages and I know exactly what's going to happen on his stream. And then he walks away and then he comes back and I'm the only other person in the VC. And he goes, okay, because this was supposed to be a double any percent into a 96 shine race, so like a 2 hour run after that, he was just like, bro, I'm not going to do the 96 shine race. And I'm like, that's totally fine. I'm totally chill with that. This is an uncomfortable scenario for me inside of my brain.
And it was uncomfortable to watch. I was watching it.
And I like, what do you do? I'm coming to you guys.
I don't know. Just try to be casual about it the whole time.
Yeah, I don't think there's really a good answer there, honestly. Like, I think it's just a tough scenario no matter what.
Because I just stayed silent. I was just kind of like sitting there going like, huh, well, that happened.
I mean, if you had your chat going, just like sort of talk to your chat, or
just act as if it didn't happen.
It'd be like, so Reed, blah, blah, blah. I don't know.
Yeah, I would probably try to just, in that scenario, if I was on stream with another streamer, I would just try to talk to my own chat and like try not to bring up how a Lego set was just smashed.
Or be like, leading up to it, like, or I guess you can hype him up like, yo, guys, check out Reed's pace. He's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't think you have to like completely ignore it, right? Like, especially if it's also based on like if they're talking about it, then obviously you talk about it too. But if they're not talking about it, then maybe just keep talking about whatever. It's a weird scenario for sure though, because I don't think I would want to be. I know a lot of top runners, if they are on a Discord call and they get on good pace, they'll just either leave the call or like just stop talking. Yeah. And then I feel kind of bad for the people on the call because I'm like, well, what are you guys supposed to do? You're in an awkward spot now.
I used to VC during speedruns a lot more often back in the day. You know, back when the good people didn't just play Dota. But I think I always just stayed in calls for runs. I mean, even in races, obviously, you just stay in the call. And then if I lose that run, I'm just like, well, whatever. I held off on breaking my Lego set, but it can be tough when you're on world record pace for sure.
Oh, Juan would always make fun of me in races.
Yeah, I remember you were so mad at Quan because like
he would always make fun of me.
Every little mistake you made, he'd start laughing at you. You're like, what the hell, man? Come on.
I'm just speedrunning a game, bro. What do you want? I messed up a thing.
Juan was a wee lad. He's matured since then. Come on.
No, he'd do the same thing. He'd do the same thing, and you know it.
Man.
Ugh. I don't know.
I feel like I'd
go for it.
I was gonna say I need a Lego set.
Everyone needs to have a Lego set next to them ready to go.
A particularly satisfying thing to break when a speedrun goes wrong.
Just throw it against the wall or just hit it really hard. And that's
just
it.
Make sure you pick them all up so you don't step on them. That'd be brutal.
Oh.
Wouldn't want that.
Mm-hmm. All I know is that it's just like it's a hard balance to strike while in a call with somebody that's on good pace. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Reed is such a wild card player where like every 1 in 1,000 runs he has like the run of the century. Otherwise it's just airstrip reset, Bianca 2 reset, airstrip reset.
Yeah, that's what we were going in. It's just like, it's gonna be 2 races. Like he was just like, bro, I'll complete them, and then he completed them. But like, it was just like those were too good that I don't want to play anymore.
And since then, I was like, if Reed just did no resets, like he'd be a monster probably.
Who knows, man?
Possibly.
I mean, same here. That's resetting is the bane of my existence. Like resetting too early when I shouldn't.
Do you hate resetting?
I do hate resetting, but I try not to as much. I have gotten a little bit better with it where I'll force myself to continue bad paces, but it's just like if I have a sick pace and then I lose like 30 seconds to a minute, but the run's not dead, right? Like I could continue it.
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point? I could literally just get that exact pace again, even though that's not what happens usually. But
do you ever go through like phases of trying to complete no resets no matter what the route or what the splits are?
Yeah, and it rarely works out. I usually end up resetting just later in the run than I would. But that's still better because the resetting early, especially in Sunshine before like pre-hacked file, that was the worst. But luckily, I feel like Sunshine's early game isn't too bad. It's like pretty okay-ish aside from RNG.
Yeah.
But I feel like Mario 64's early game is a lot harder because it's like Womps is kind of a tough level into Dark World, which obviously is hard and you can die at any moment. Like if I start resetting before I leave Dark World in 64 a lot, then it just gets to me mentally and the runs just get worse and worse.
I guess you're right. SM64 does kind of seem like a more reset heavy game than Sunshine. And I never really thought about it.
As funny as it sounds, like 64 players used to always make fun of Sunshine for its awful intro and like, oh, you got to sit through the intro and it takes so long. But 64, and it hasn't changed, it's always been this way. But nowadays, you got hacked file, which pretty much alleviates that. Yeah. But then 64, especially at a top level where like every second really counts, First of all, in non-70 star categories, you have LBLJ to start things off.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, Womp's Fortress looks super hellish because you got cannonless. You can go for like a risky setup. Womp's 100s look super tough with like that hard cycle you got to make.
Yeah.
So you see all these resets in Womps. Plus, they already have like their minute-long intro on top of that. So it's like, what's the winner now? 64.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Hackfile completely changed it because now, even like, I mean, being used to years of sitting through Sunshine's intro, you'd think I'd be like more like capable of handling like the 40-second, you know, Peach intro in Mario 64, but it gets annoying as hell when if I miss like Lakitu skip or bomb clip, it's like the very beginning. It's the worst. It's just like, God, I have to sit through this again now.
Yeah, like Sunshine, like even for the toppest of top, the highest of top players,
toppest of top,
the toppest of top. They like the first run killer is what, like 16 minutes in, or I guess with Hackfile like 10 minutes in
Sunshine.
Yeah, like Petey.
You could lose a run on windmill wall kicks.
Oh, windmill wall kicks. Fuck.
Yeah, but I'd say that's like a lot rarer than losing a run. And like in 64, for the short category runners, they pretty much have to do the salt cannonless setup, which is like pretty much OG cannonless, but with a setup to make it more likely. But I still see top players miss it like half the time.
Oh, is that the one where they sort of change the camera at a certain angle a couple times?
Yeah, like they jump up to a specific spot and then they change the camera in a certain way, and it like ups the odds, but it's still like kind of a crapshoot. It's just not as much of a crapshoot. It was interesting
to watch that play out, where when cannonless setup was first found, it was like, oh, well, like 2014, what was optimized was nowhere near what it is now. But back then, it was like, oh, it's optimized. But still, it was like, oh, we can just use this setup and we still have some leeway. We can still get records. But seeing it play out year after year, the gradual transition into, okay, we got to do like this medium, like slightly faster setup where like you just grab the ledge and then go for it. Yeah, and then there's like the baby steps back to the pre-setup era, sort of. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's honestly rough though. Like I watch top players do the salt class setup and they still consistently miss it, and I'm like, damn, this sucks. Like I get that it's kind of required, especially again for the short categories. Yeah. Like you kind of have to do it now at top level, but it's just. It still looks like a crapshoot from where I'm sitting.
I was watching Zoofy one time, who's a very top.
The toppest of top?
The toppest of top 70-star player. And he was saying, dude, I literally did this setup. I got cannonless 7 times in a row in practice, and I've been doing it for like an hour of attempts. I just can't even get past it. It's like, damn, that's rough.
The practice conversation again.
Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, it's brutal to see how many runs die to it, but there's no real way around it because both of the other... There's like the classic setup where you like grab a ledge and then you do a backflip and then a punch and then walk down, and that's the one I still do.
That's so funny that you call it classic when it's just like I remember being around when Sockfolder was like announcing it.
Yeah, I saw it on Twitter when it was new. And also I was like,
oh my god, Sockfolder found a thing.
I remember when GBS was new, and that's how old we are.
Yeah.
True.
GBS loves the thing. Sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. I kind of recall when GBS was found because I was like vaguely interested. Like I'd already started watching Samu and stuff.
Yeah, you were streaming then too, pretty much, right?
I don't think I was playing Sunshine on stream yet, but I was already streaming.
Melee.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just Melee at the time.
When you guys were talking about just now with the long setup versus now we need to optimize the setup and basically get back to where we were with the setup. It makes me think of hover sliding in Super Mario Sunshine, where it's like for a while we would just hover slide. We would just use the hover a little bit. It would just be the same kind of thing with the mechanics, the base mechanics of the game.
Such a good comparison. You're right.
Where you would just like face the direction and hover slide, and then at some point Nindide implemented, or maybe it wasn't Nindide, but like we started implementing spray hover sliding.
I think Nindide started it.
Where you hold spray, turn, hover slide, and it would be more consistent because you'd have the little trail of water in front of you and the water spawning below you, so you'd more consistently get a hover slide. But then nowadays it's faster to just turn and go back to essentially what the hover slide was. And like Nindide started that as well. So it's just like, oh, this is a more consistent way to do hover sliding. And now we've come full circle to, oh, we just want a hover slide though if you're good enough.
Yeah, it's funny how the perception was in 2016 when we saw spray hover slides. We're like, oh, that's so try hard. Who wants to do that?
Yeah, exactly.
And then it became just super common. Like now everyone does just spray hover slides is like the norm. And then over time, you could like implement, just regular hover slide. You save like a frame or two, just skipping the spray part. And now it's like, damn, it's so inconsistent. Why would you want to do that? The way we used to do it back in the day.
Yeah, but that's just so like funny. The base mechanic itself now. Like instead of just a trick, it's like the mechanic, the base mechanic.
That's such a funny thing. You're right. That's a really good canonless comparison.
Yeah, that actually does make sense. I remember my mind being blown when I found out about spray hover sliding. I was just like, oh, it just actually works now instead of just trying it over and over again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awkward input, but once you learn it, you can't go back.
Yeah. Well, sometimes it doesn't lose time at all, like at the beginning of like Bianco and stuff, right? Like because you can spray before you can do anything else.
Typically, it's after landing from a rollout or something. That's when it saves like a frame or two to not do it.
Okay, I see.
It just depends. But yeah, that was what I was thinking.
So I guess to sort of wrap this up almost, where do you see yourself or even just Melee or your speedrunning like in the next few years? I know with COVID it's kind of hard to predict, but like where do you see it?
At the moment I am still enjoying
Moist Chillindude.
A moist future.
Just it was too much liquid on Team Liquid. I wanna just still some amount of liquid. Just not as much.
Like steam room
a reasonable amount.
Oh shit.
A sauna.
Sauna Chillindude. I'm down. But yeah, like speedrunning wise, I'm still really enjoying Mario 64. I'm probably going to keep doing that for a while. Speedrunning's never been like my main thing, but because I'm a full-time streamer and I think it's better content, I tend to stick to it. But I do want to get back into Melee pretty heavily, like toward the end of this year and into next year. So I think at some point it'll start being my main thing again, even if on stream it's not necessarily my main thing. Because again, I think Melee content's hard to do on stream. It's hard to do like if you're just grinding Melee, it's hard to make that entertaining.
That's why all the Melee players like Toph, None, everyone's just doing YouTube stuff, the highlight reels.
Right, because it's just not I think we talked about this last podcast too, but it's just like such a hard balance of focusing on improving at Melee versus looking at or interacting with chat, because like speedrunning, you have all this natural downtime. You know exactly where the downtime is. With Melee, it's like you have like in between stocks for like 5 seconds at most. Like that's it. So it's hard to do good Melee content on stream, but I do want to start streaming it more and just see if I can do like, a little last hurrah as far as Melee tourneys. I feel like the potential is still there, but I would have to put a lot of time in, basically. Like, especially this past year, it's literally been like a hyperbolic time chamber of people just grinding nonstop with rollback, giving them the option to like play legitimate matches whenever. So I have my work cut out for me in that sense, but I feel like giving it a shot. Why not? There's no harm in it. Like worst case, I do not perform as well as I used to, but that's kind of the expected outcome anyway.
In
as
general,
far as overall,
do you think that Melee has a bright future ahead?
Oh yeah. 100%. Yeah.
I mean, I know we're a little bit biased, but
yeah. I mean, for Melee, it's like at this point in my life, like I've experienced at least like 4 or 5 different moments where it was like Melee is dead. Like this is over. Like first it was when MLG dropped us. When Brawl came out was another one. When Evo, I mean, this was for like a few hours before they reversed the decision. But when Nintendo said they weren't going to stream Evo, I was like, well, it's dead again. Like there's been so many moments where it feels like it's going to die, and it just still hasn't. And I feel like people love the game too much for it to die anytime soon. I also don't think it's infinite. It's been kind of an interesting thought experiment for myself to be like, when will Melee actually die? Like, I don't think it'll actually last literally forever, but it might be alive and kicking, like, before my lifetime is over. Like, I might actually be watching Melee in the retirement home at like age 80. Like, that's a crazy thought to think, but it's kind of true. Like, if it's been 20 years and it literally is not showing signs of slowing down, I don't think it's necessarily like skyrocketing in growth or anything, but it's still doing pretty damn well. And especially viewership is like pretty solid still compared to, the whole lifespan of Melee. So I have no clue when it'll die, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon.
My personal theory is that it'll always exist in some like subtle cyborg state where, I mean, we already have the game that we play isn't technically Melee because there's UCF and something else, right?
Right.
It's not technically the vanilla game, but there'll be like these minor little tweaks and maybe even something more major in the future. Who knows? Actually, my ideal future is they'll, in like the far future, be able to add more official characters to Melee.
What?
Like, remember when like they added that wolf thing?
Yeah.
Like, they'll be able to just like add characters and balance them perfectly, and we'll just have Melee as like, they'll have like ultimate level of character numbers for Melee. in the far future. Like, we're nowhere near that now, but that's my theory. So
Nintendo will still shut it down.
Nintendo will still be shutting stuff down even then. Who knows?
Yeah, behind the scenes, shutting everything down or trying to. But the most important question, Chillin. Okay,
what's that?
In the next 5 years, Melee, whatever. When are you going to play my Zelda?
Ooh.
Didn't your Zelda beat my Mario? Or
my
is that
Zelda beat your Mario.
No, wasn't it? I think
in
that
one game.
Sid's Mario beat your Samus, right?
No,
that's impossible.
I thought it was your Mario.
I don't think
there's no way. My Samus is too good for that to occur.
I think my Zelda beat his Mario.
I'm gonna put $20 on it. Okay, not really, but I think it was Sid's Mario versus your Samus. I'm like, I have a hunch that's what it was.
He was talking to Chad.
Does Sid even play Mario?
I used to.
You used to play Mario more often than you do now.
Yeah,
I see. I think it was my Mario.
Okay, if we find that clip, if that clip still exists, I guarantee you it was Sid's Mario, your Samus. Maybe it wasn't Samus.
I'll gift the sub to you for $3.99 because it's September.
Oh, it's September again?
Apparently, I just saw that earlier. I haven't actually streamed yet since it started, but apparently it's $3.99 for gifts, which is way better than just like, I think it was like only first time subs got the discount last year, which was kind of garbage.
Mm-hmm. I think Twitch loves September. Like anything that gives them more money, they're like, yeah, we'll keep doing September. Hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely do love money.
Not enough to keep Tim the Tap Man, though.
Not enough to keep Tim the Tap Man, though. What a thing to say.
And on that note, it's been... Thank you for coming on, Chillindude. It's been great once again having you on here.
Yeah, of course, man. Thank you guys for having me again. I greatly apologize for the multiple attempts that it took me to get on here. And, I just had... to be fair, I actually did have like a busy month last month.
No worries, no worries.
You know what? I'm just glad you came on at all.
Aww.
You know?
It was for you, Sid.
Yay.
Trey, whatever. Trey,
yeah. I expected that.
Meh.
Anyway, have a good day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Peace.
Shout out to Liquid.